Hello, welcome back to Madrona's Pulse Teachings. I am Iris and we are doing our astrology of the week ahead. We are talking about October 20th through October 26th. This, of course, includes our Libra New Moon. It includes Neptune going back into Pisces. It includes Sun coming into Scorpio. It's a big week. It's dynamic energy. I'm going to weave some narratives, taking us through it. I'm trying to get you some sunset colors back there, but we'll see if we get them. I hope that you are doing well as we journey through these last few months of 2025. And like I said, it's a bit of a dynamic week, so let's get into it. So starting on the 20th, we come into this week and we have a conjunction of Mars and Mercury along with true black moon Lilith, which is the kind of darkest side of the moon and relates to our deep emotional processing and reclaiming journeys. So we have this conjunction of the three of them, and they are in a trine with the North Node as well, who's at 17 degrees of Pisces. They moved out of that exact trine, but it still is holding. So we enter this week with this very powerful water energy that is deep diving, that is really an incredible opportunity for witnessing and purging and reclaiming, especially the parts of ourselves that we have been taught in this life structurally, intergenerationally, that connect us to so much beyond what is brought into focus in the mainstream gaze. And I mean, on top of Black Moon Lilith being conjunct Mars, conjunct Mercury, we also have, as we enter this week, the asteroid Hecate opposite Sedna and Uranus. Okay, so she's at the first degree of Sag. And so, folks, witchy energy to reclaim right here. Someone said in a video, what do I mean by witchy ways? What do I mean by witchy ways? Iris means by witchy ways our primal, instinctual, embodied ways of knowing that connect us to earth-based spirituality, that connect us to goddess, that connect us to the literal dirt and trees and that ocean out there, that brings in wisdom systems that are ancient and yet being reborn in the current astrology right now, that often absolutely disrupt paradigms of power. In our current manifestation, it is the intersection of power over ideologies and capitalism all working in together that usually silence those other ways of knowing. That is what I mean by our witchy ways. Absolutely has a very strong lineage. I actually just made a video about that today. I have to edit it a little and then I will put it up probably as we enter Scorpio season. It is fitting. But I mean, we are talking about deep reclaiming energy in Scorpio, which also absolutely brings up wounds of intimacy, fear of having been betrayed, fear of being betrayed. That's where Scorpio can grab a hold to its intuition and go into those more kind of survival, manipulative ways. But this is about healing. This is the North Node trining. This is coming in as Mercury, messenger of the gods, who can go into the underworld. So archetypally, our mind, expression, communication is able to journey into our own underworld with Black Moon Lilith. Black Moon Lilith shows us where we have been taught we are too much, too wild, not enough of fill in the blank. And in Scorpio, conjunct Mars, she has got messages for you about your own depths, about what you need, about your intimacies with life, all of it coming up and allowing it because this is the day before our Libra New Moon. So of course on the 21st we have our Libra New Moon. It is at the 28th degree of Libra. I do have another video on the Libra New Moon that's really looking at relationships because Libra does kind of rule our one-on-one relationships. This new moon has also some layers. Firstly, that's the dark moon with that intense energy in Scorpio the day before the Libra new moon. You might want to take some time and be with yourself. Also, being in those intimate relationships that you do not have to hide anything, that you can explore yourself, where you can really just kind of flow in and out of each other, of ways of being. Doesn't matter if that is a romantic partner, a friend, an animal, whatever it is, but that energy is here. But also, for sure, time alone might be something that you want during the beginning of this week. And as we come into that, we come into this new moon at the 28th degree of Libra. And the next day, on the 22nd, Neptune moves back into Pisces. So what's going to happen here is that new moon is in an inconjunct with Neptune, both when it's at 0 degrees of Aries and as it moves into Libra. And as the sun is at that 28th degree of Libra, and as it moves into 0 degrees of Scorpio, they move together and they're in an inconjunct. So there is something about spirituality, about ways of being that have nothing to do with the conditioned mind, conditioned culture, structures of being that wants to be heard during this new moon, that wants to be felt. Neptune does not communicate in ordinary language that simply makes sense. Neptune is moving back into Pisces, which is about a total dissolving. Neptune is here, speaking with this new moon, and it is asking us to let go. And most likely that might be coming in our ways of being in one-on-one relationship, ways that we've clung to control. When Libra clings to control, it's actually usually hiding part of itself, because that's how it keeps control and that's how it keeps the status quo, and that's how it thinks it keeps control. Libra's not keeping control when it's doing that, but it thinks it's keeping control. And there's something about just letting go, releasing. And this is big energy. Neptune's moving back to the final degree of Pisces, the final degree of the zodiac. And that is happening in tandem with this new moon. Okay. And then as that sun moves into Scorpio, okay, which is either the evening of the 22nd or the 23rd, happy solar return to my fellow Scorpio suns out there. And as this happens, that sun comes into a square with our Pluto, who is freshly direct and also in conjunct with Sedna and Uranus, who are retrograde. So once again, we have this new moon speaking with all of the outer planets, paradigm shaking, paradigm breaking. It is in process. This is a big process. There is nothing to be finalized in this moment in our personal lives, in the collective. It is a process, but it's a moment in our personal inquiry journeys to really actually get quiet and listen to what your soul is asking, telling, directing, guiding as you move through this new moon. Also, ongoing this week, ongoing through the rest of this year, is a square between Jupiter and Chiron. Okay. I did make a video. I was about to say I made a video about this. I did, but that is up on Patreon. For folks that don't know, you can join on Patreon. You can join for free. You can join in one of the tiers, New Moon Vibes, Cosmic Rhythms, where we meet live twice with the new moon and the full moon. We get up to really awesome stuff there, so feel free to go there. And also you can sign up for free, and every now and then I put videos up there. Also, a number of folks who are not enjoying YouTube in these times, especially because of how much AI is out there. Just always reminding that I never have AI in any of my astro writing, astro forecasting, anything. It's all me. And that can be a place that is kind of separate, because YouTube can also be really overstimulating for a lot of folks. So I've talked at length about Jupiter and Chiron there, but the reason I mention it is this is here. It's a square between Jupiter, who is so slow moving right now, it's at 24 degrees, going to the 25th degree of Cancer, and it will station retrograde, and it is square Chiron, who is at 24 degrees of Aries and moving back to 22. Chiron is retrograde. This square is with us through to pretty much the beginning of January. And it is here during this new moon. And it is important as well because there's lots of layers here. And so as we're working with that, there is deep healing. There is deep healing that is going on through the rest of this year. And this new moon, the way that it is positioned with Neptune moving back into Pisces, there is so much to release. And it has a lot to do with our mind's beliefs of control, of structures, of thinking that we understand things. Next few months are here to show us that we don't. Saturn is back in Pisces, and Saturn coming into the end of this week. So as we come through the new moon, that sun is going to square Pluto. That is exact on the 24th, okay? But we're really moving with that as we come out of the new moon into the week, exact on the 24th. And that there is also showing us that there is heightened transformation as we emerge out of this new moon. And remembering that's a sun who has entered Scorpio season. Scorpio is the archetype of deep diving, of looking at what is real. Scorpio is the no bullshit sign of the zodiac. It does not want to be on the surface. That's why so many pop astrology things in Scorpio are so surface level. There's nothing surface about Scorpio. It wants to understand what is here. And that's why I say we begin this week with really strong Scorpio energy that wants us to see where we've been taught to silence ourselves, where we've been taught we don't belong. And the sun comes into Scorpio and it squares Pluto, who is an energy that's aligned with Scorpionic energy. Of course, that Pluto is in Aquarius now. And there is something about just seeing our authentic self in a new way out of this new moon that we're ready to see now because Pluto is direct. Pluto is direct, and this square is happening as Neptune has just come back to the final degree of zodiac. This is deep, and it most likely does require interventions like poetry, art, music, nature, meditation, and it needs space. There's a lot of layers to the type of revelatory inner seeing. This is about us. It may be about our intimate patterns. That's part of Scorpio, but this is about us. You're starting to get some sunset colors there. That's what I was hoping you would get. And so then going to my last piece that I want to pick up as we come to the end of this week is that Saturn. We are coming into a water trine. Okay, so that Jupiter, all the threads are connecting now. That Jupiter who squared Chiron is also trining Saturn. Saturn retrograde. Saturn's at 26 degrees of Pisces. And as we come into this end of this week, first we have Mercury coming in complete in Scorpio, a grand water trine. And then at the end of the week and into next week, we have Mars come in and create the grand water trine. So it's on, the 23rd, the 24th is when we have Mercury come in. And this again helps us to feel into the insights of intuition that want to carry us forward. And yet, in evolutionary astrology, we don't work with a trine as just box, good, check it, there's your trine. It flows harmonically between the signs, but it's a water trine. It's Jupiter who's moving so slowly, who's also squaring Chiron, who's making big waves of emotions in our sense of self potentially in our own home, trining a Saturn that is approaching its final degree before it's stations direct and moves into Aries and won't come back into Pisces for 30 years. Okay, trining a Mercury who's just come out of a conjunction with Mars and Black Moon Lilith as the Sun is square Pluto in Scorpio, right? And then Mars comes into that trine spot at the end of this week into next week. So this is deep water energy. And it may be waves that want to wash away past self-conceptions, past, Saturn is here to clear things out. And now that this is the first week that Neptune's back in Pisces, we enter the final shedding. And it may be asking a lot of us, and yet it is all about rebirth. It is all about reclaiming. It is all about coming into new ways of being and having a structure and sense of self and sense of purpose that is not aligned to the power over ideologies that have really taken so much from us learning as individuals and feeling and trusting why we're here and what we're here for. And Neptune brings in Pisces, it brings in the art, it brings in dream work, it brings in symbols and synchronicities. The water trine speaks through symbol and feeling and emotion, and it is here for you to flow with, to lean in, knowing that there may be some deep ripples coming up. That Scorpio energy that we're moving with is asking us to look at potentially some things that need to be purged, patterns of intimacy that we internalized, ideas of intimacy, of what relationship is, that often come from really shallow understandings of relationship in the mainstream, that don't embody our witchy ways and that way of being connected in a raw way. Scorpio is pretty raw energy, to that which cannot be put into a box, cannot be contained and sold and marketed. Oh, that's what I love the beginning of this week, that the Hecate opposite Uranus and Sedna is just like, no, you will not turn this into something that can be marketed and turned into profit in this. And there's a big difference between earning a living and profiting and exploiting. There's a huge difference. And unfortunately, part of the unfortunate outcome of such a capitalist culture that we live in is that everything gets just put under this. And there's a big difference between creating thriving economies that support community, that support the earth, that allow all of us to share our gifts and live in comfort in ways that our needs are met, and having a structure in which gifts are turned into something to be profited and exploited, creating a structure where only a few are really comfortable in certain ways and have more than they will need for generations. And the outer planets are dismantling. They are dismantling ways of thinking and understanding and being. And Hecate often in astrology speaks to the crossroads and the light that we have within ourselves to see the path to take. And perhaps there is something for you coming up on a deep soul level about your spirit, that Sag spirit that wants to go through. It wants to burst into a new way at a crossroads. And Sedna and Uranus are there saying, choose the path that is most authentic to you. Choose the path that is most authentic to you and your soul, because that is what this time is all about. Okay, I better stop because while I want you to have the beautiful sunset, it also turns me more grainy and grainy as it gets darker out there. So I am sending blessings for a deeply beautiful new moon, even just a moment of it. There can be tender spots in there too, but tender and grief do not exclude beauty. And I will see you soon. Bye.